While depictions of the Clone Wars often portray the Confederacy of Independent Systems as a unified front against the Republic, the truth of the matter is that the Separatist Alliance was a very fractured association of groups with varying levels of cooperation and association even within the war. Today we're going to take a look at how the military associations within the CIS and their use of different assets and subgroups evolved between their founding and over the course of the war. The CIS as a political entity began shortly before the war in 24 BBY, or years before the Battle of Yavin, with the Clone Wars running from 22 to 19 BBY. When Count Dooku gave what was known as the Raxus Address, where he, quote, commandeered the Republic communications station in the Tion hegemony to broadcast a fiery speech blasting the Senate and the Jedi for allowing the Republic's ideals and morals to decline. This speech precipitated the beginnings of a formal alliance between various dissatisfied corporate or other subnational groups within the Republic. While many of these groups, like the Banking Clan, Trade Federation, and Techno Union, had access to more formal military structures, having paid arms manufacturers huge sums of money for battle droids and warships, as a whole these groups did not integrate very heavily. Despite the Clone Wars often being viewed as legions of clones against legions of battle droids fighting on the CIS's side, quite often conflicts were a lot more local and didn't involve any clones or droids at all. Very often, these were just civil wars between former local planetary or sector defense forces. Those within the Republic who hoped to see a peaceful end of the tensions, even after Geonosis, were skeptical of the use of the Grand Army of the Republic. The formation and deployment of a unified, organized response to the CIS as a whole was seen by them to only provoke further unified responses from the previously disparate groups of separatists. This was ultimately what ended up happening. Early in the war, attempts at cooperation between the groups were a mix of rare and unsuccessful. Territory was often disconnected, and generally efforts were focused on keeping the Republic out of their territory through individual actions. As the Republic organized more to offset these attempts though, so too did the CIS. Originally, the chain of command even within the largest CIS groups like the Techno Union, Trade Federation, Banking Clan, Commerce Guild, etc. was entirely disconnected. They would cooperate, but there were no figures to oversee the whole operation. Dooku served as a political leader and a strong figure within the military operations, but was not officially part of a command structure between all allied forces. It was rare to see fleets of CIS ships that involved forces from more than one subgroup. One figure played a key role in changing this arrangement: General Grievous. After he was appointed the Supreme Commander of all Confederacy armed forces, he was able to begin turning the tides of the war, allowing strikes further and further into Republic territory, culminating with an assault on Coruscant and the capture of Chancellor Palpatine in Episode 3 during 19 BBY. He was able to accomplish this largely through his organizational changes, allowing further cooperation and unity between Confederate forces. They began to operate with one single command structure. They went from a fleet that was really just a collection of hundreds of separate fleets to one unified force, with standardized subdivisions. They would generally keep corporate and local leadership in place, but these leaders were now all organized under Grievous. Although his legacy and acumen as a tactician is heavily debated, it was almost universally accepted that Grievous's moves in this direction were a huge boon to the CIS. Within internal CIS politics though, the implications were not always seen as a positive thing, despite their positive effects on the war effort. Many within the CIS had joined because they wanted to fight against a single centralized power, and the height of their success was, ironically, only once they were able to centralize themselves. It is likely that, had the CIS won, the leaders would have objected to remaining as unified, but the actual war goals of the CIS are likely a video topic for another day. In either case, I hope you've enjoyed this look at the evolution of the CIS's military structure. This was prompted by some work we're doing within the mod I run for Empire at War, Thrawn's Revenge, where we're about to put out a Clone Wars version, and the CIS faction involves some mechanics based on this kind of organization. If you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description for the feature preview for those mechanics. If you have any suggestions for future videos, or other feedback, please leave it in the comments. Remember to leave a like or subscribe if you've enjoyed the video as well. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.